Chapter 2 Companionship. Lorenzo had woken up. He thoroughly enjoyed his sleep, yawning as he contemplated what he'd do with the spare time. Soon after, he came to his senses, remembering what he was so excited for yesterday. The map! Lorenzo smiled, thinking about his rest for a moment. Man, that rest went hard. He got up, stretching immediately afterwards. Alright, time to get moving. He grabbed the map, grabbing a sandwich and a beverage from his stack of drinks as well. With the sandwich in his mouth and drink in his hand, he took a slight detour to look at his old photos though. As much as he felt like he had to rush, he simply stared at them. Am I getting cold feet? He questioned himself, however quickly snapping out of it when he realized the sandwich was falling out. After fixing the sandwich's risky position, he referred back to his main goal for the day. I gotta get going, let me see. He looked at the map. Okay, let me leave the Oasis Falls first. Though maybe I should say bye to Mum. Yeah, alright. He concluded after a moment of hesitation, leaving for her house. He began fantasizing about his upcoming adventure, excited. What if he made friends? If he found somewhere new to be? There were so many thoughts, and then he made it to her house. Lorenzo anticipated a positive conversation knocking on the door. The only reason he hesitated earlier was his unwillingness to see her cry, but conveniently, he remembered lying was an option. Soon, he was calm. He was patiently waiting for her. His mum then opened the door, ecstatic to see Lorenzo. A warm, flowery fragrance filled the air as he looked at his mother, feeling immediately comforted as his childhood memories came rushing back to him. Despite the gap in them, he had a few, all being incredibly positive. Now, he was facing the woman who allowed him to be such a cheerful child. Hello, sweetheart. It's been months since you came around. Is there something you needed to see me about? I mean, that's what it always is. She sighed, waiting for clarification. Lorenzo scratched his head, realizing just how selfish he could be sometimes. However, not wanting to have a tough conversation, he ignored her remark. Well, yeah, I'll be going somewhere for a while. I wanted to see you before going through with it, you know? He smiled, hoping his mum would react positively. She nodded, relieving Lorenzo. His attempts at keeping the conversation lighthearted were working. That sounds great. Why are you leaving? What are you doing? I'm curious. Lorenzo's mother was overjoyed to see her son finally going outside for something besides work. The hero had been caught off guard by this positive reaction. Of course, he longed for it, but Lorenzo was confused regardless. It was a bit unnatural to him, though maybe he just lacked the appropriate knowledge of social cues. Well, I'm going to visit an old friend. I just wanted to catch up, you know? Due to the fact my vacation just began, I figured I'd take the opportunity. He explained, his mother being intrigued throughout it all. She clapped in response, happy for her son. It was really getting unnatural how pleased she was by this, the nostalgia of her home growing somewhat uneasy as their conversation continued. That's great, thanks for telling me. I hope I see you again soon afterwards. His mother politely waved, Lorenzo getting up from his chair, waving back and exiting the house, leaving. He thought about what to do next, as well as why he was so paranoid. Was being isolated from other people this dangerous to somebody's normality? That's all Lorenzo could think about after a bit. Leaving your own home is quite the big change after all, especially when it would last 1 or 2 weeks. This was an insane implication to Lorenzo. He was scared, but resisted the fear bursting throughout his body. Lorenzo continued walking throughout town, appreciating the vibrant and vast nature, uniquely cultural, durable infrastructure, along with the amazing people that he didn't know, besides his mother and somebody else. He made it to the gate afterwards, not thinking twice before getting ready to leave. As expected, I think it's time to leave. Lorenzo gulped, gripping his backpack tightly. It was an act, but the drama made it feel a lot more climatic to him. His boots sat on the thick sands below him, blowing with time. Time that was of the essence. I'll miss this old place. He inhaled, exhaling as he continued to walk outside, still clearly attempting to be dramatic. As he was walking, loud footsteps crunched in the leaves on the sand behind him. It was running. Lorenzo immediately spun around, attempting to intimidate whoever was coming for him. They seemed threatening, after all. However, it was a familiar face. Mr. Hoax, the top chef of the town. He always wore an apron with red clothing, alongside a chef hat on his uniquely wavy brown hair. This was the one person that wasn't his mother, who showed him what it meant to be a resident of Oasis Falls. They go way back. For a while within Lorenzo's life, due to his mother's mental health, he was fostered during the ages 9 to 11. He was put into the family running a chef business, where Lorenzo first learned diligence and work ethic, the two things that would crumble his social life. Mr. Hoax was the child of the existing family, with Lorenzo being similar to a brother of sorts. While this was true for those 2 years, they only rarely spoke afterwards, catching up every few months or so. Regardless, they'd both agree that they saw each other as siblings, just somewhat distant. So distant, in fact, that he doesn't even know his first name. "Hey, wait up, Lorenzo, where are you going?" He struggled to maintain his physical composure, almost collapsing from the running he had just done. He was fit, but incredibly goofy, and not very coordinated. Lorenzo struggled to respond for a moment, plainly looking at him and the town he was leaving behind. "Well, I'm exploring for a while," he explains. In response, though dull, Mr. Hoax nodded. "Well, you know the vacation applies to more things than just your blacksmithing workplace, right? I want to come too." He walked closer to Lorenzo, approaching him. He thought for a moment, remembering his desire to grow more social. He would have complied with this request, but he was concerned for what his parents would think. "Sure, you can come, it'll be fun, but you should probably depart from your loved ones first, right?" He smiled, a little confused as to why Mr. Hoax didn't mention so previously. He nodded. "Of course, I already did." He did magic hands, appropriate due to Lorenzo's surprised reaction. "You were that confident? Damn." He was positively surprised, though. Mr. Hoax seemed joyous, a gifted young fanboy. In all seriousness, however, Lorenzo was really confused as to why he knew about all of this. Mr. Hoax was a wild person, that he knew for sure. The two began walking throughout the nearby green forest, exploring each and every turn. Paths were laid out through it. Much like a park, though the map required them to break off from the easy road soon enough and delve into the dangers of the woods soon after. They grew closer to each other as the hours went by, reminding them of their childhood as proper siblings. A problem popped up in Lorenzo's mind as they continued. He hadn't told Hoax about the goal, the treasure. Unfortunately, he did happen to be confused by the situation. "Are we looking for something, by the way? It's a little odd that we're exploring with no goal at all." Hoax thought, clearly confused. Lorenzo cleared his throat, awkwardly preparing to inform his newfound partner. They stood still at a small field of grass for a moment, prepared to explain his outrageous goal. "We're looking for a treasure, actually." He scratched his head, hoping Hoax would believe him. It was silent for a moment between them. Hoax did desire proof though, asking for it right away as the wind blew into their faces, with the occasional leaf intruding on their peace. "Do you have a map?" He put his hands out, gesturing to look at it. Lorenzo nodded, handing it over. "There you go." He awaited Hoax's opinion on the map. After a minute of analysis and observations, Hoax spoke. "Seems good, although there are some dangerous areas. I'm sure we're fine though." He continued moving, cheerful. Now it was towards the treasure. He was completely on board this time. Lorenzo felt at ease due to this positive revelation, following right behind. "Seems we found the right person for directions," he joked, Hoax laughing alongside him. As they continued walking, the duo noticed the sky losing its light. Night was coming, which began a cycle of deep fear within them. Lorenzo and Hoax stared at each other. "I forgot camping gear," Lorenzo sighed, clearly feeling the disappointment radiating from his partner. Hoax face palms. "To the cave it is then." He shook his head, treading carefully towards a small cave he knew of previously. Lorenzo followed anxiously, the pitch-black darkness consuming them each minute. After a long, anxiety-inducing walk, they made it. The cave was cold. It also lacked smooth rocks, though this wasn't necessarily bad. There were flat areas throughout the cave they decided to rest on as rain began falling from the sky previously above them. Alongside this new change in weather, flashes of light crashed, loud sounds piercing through the duo's ears. They managed to sleep eventually, though it was not easy. Lorenzo was in a somewhat good mood as he drifted off, feeling accomplished, fortunately. Mr. Hoax was excited for what was to come. It was the first time Lorenzo didn't feel completely alone. He hadn't felt like this since he moved out of his mother's house, which was unfortunate. Mr. Hoax was happy he could journey with his friend, ecstatic to continue. After a joyous though disturbed sleep, morning came. The storm had cleared by then, allowing the two to exit. Immediately, they noticed how wet their surroundings were, individually sighing as they walked around in the mud below. However, it wasn't all bad. They could continue working toward their goal. Lorenzo realized the repetitive nature of their adventure immediately. "You know, there's gonna be a lot of walking," he randomly commented, Mr. Hoax acknowledging it hastily. "You're right, but imagine the biomes, the people, all that stuff. That would make it significantly more fun, right?" He attempted to convince Lorenzo. He nodded. Yeah, I guess, but let's continue our journey then. Lorenzo stretched, continuing his march toward the goal. Hoax followed with immense anticipation. The two were reaching the edge of the forest. The trees became less and less frequent, more light shining through. The duo somewhat liked this new intense sunshine they had found themselves in. Reminds me of home. Mr. Hoax looked up in the sky, avoiding eye contact with the sun. Yeah, it really does, Lorenzo agreed, looking up alongside his friend. Well, let's continue. He cut it short, continuing the traversal they had been committing to this whole time. As they walked, an uneasy feeling spiked within Lorenzo. He saw a split-second vision of what could only be described as pure darkness. Hoax noticed the uneasy expression on Lorenzo's face. "What's up, you alright?" He confronted him hastily, stopping Lorenzo. "Yeah, I just saw something." He struggled to word it. "Darkness, that's all I can really say, yeah." Lorenzo nodded, clearly somewhat talking to himself. Mr. Hoax showed understanding, continuing his walk. Lorenzo reluctantly followed. The vision only made him feel more uneasy, although a distraction arose. "The forest is finally cleared," Hoax cheered, seeing the beautiful fields ahead. As Lorenzo was scouting these fields atop a rock, he noticed something distinct, a building which seemed populated. "Hey, look over there." Lorenzo pointed towards the building he spotted, Hoax immediately responding. "Let's check it out," he immediately suggested. Lorenzo complied. "Sure, let's go." He jumped off the rock he had used to scout, walking toward their newfound temporary objective. The two walked, their appreciation for their surroundings remaining throughout. They eventually made it, and it was not what they expected. However, that's not to say it wasn't beneficial in any way. They entered. There was a bar for travelers. "This is surprisingly good for a place in the middle of nowhere." Mr. Hoax showed admiration. "I should work here," he casually joked to finish his comment off. Lorenzo laughed a little, clearly allowing his mood to improve. "You'd do a good job if you did," he replied, being interrupted by somebody. "So, what are you guys getting today?" that person asked. It was the bartender. "Like, seriously, the quicker you tell me, the quicker I can serve you guys." She waited for an order. "Can we both have milkshakes?" Mr. Hoax innocently asked. "You're lucky you're here. Other bars don't sell milkshakes," the bartender sighed. Hoax awkwardly scratched his head, putting his money down and sitting. Lorenzo sat across the table from him. "Nice first impressions," he facepalmed. "I didn't know, alright? I'm 17. Give me a break." Mr. Hoax sighed, resting his head on the aforementioned table. "Hey, look." Lorenzo spotted an odd-looking man in full black, an aura of darkness effectively powering from him as he sat down. He had no mouth, and even his skin was pitch black. The only variety was his long white hair and pure white eyes. "Doesn't he look a little odd?" he explained his previous request. "Yeah, I sort of see your point," Mr. Hoax agreed, his head no longer resting. "Should we ask for directions? There's a lot of mountains the way we're going. The milkshakes are going to be a while after all." Lorenzo smiled a little. Mr. Hoax nodded, the two getting up and walking towards the man. After a reasonably short walk, they sat next to him. "What's up?" The man looked at them, hair covering the majority of his colourless face. Lorenzo was quick to explain. "We need directions. The terrain we're going is really extreme." He looked at the man, showing a desire for an answer. The man understood. "Sure, where are you going though?" He threw a question right back at them. "Treasure!" Hoax energetically replied. The man nodded. "Cool. Are you looking for a third person by any chance?" "I'm Adrik, but just call me Shadow, by the way." Shadow showed a clear desire to join in on the treasure hunts. Lorenzo didn't exactly see a problem with this. "You can join, I know what you're gonna ask." He smiled. "Just help us with directions, alright?" Lorenzo politely requested. Shadow gave a surprisingly enthusiastic thumbs up in response. After the conversation had concluded, the duo's milkshakes arrived, tasting as amazing as expected. The three left the building, starting up conversation right away. "So, whereabouts do you live, Shadow?" Mr. Hoax was clearly curious about their new companion. That was understandable. "Honestly, I move around a lot. I don't exactly live anywhere." Shadow gave a somewhat disappointing response to Mr. Hoax. "Do you work anywhere then? I'd assume not." Lorenzo butted in, Shadow complying with Lorenzo's assumptions. "Yeah, none." He looked into the sky for a moment as they continued walking. "I just like to appreciate the beauty of the world, you know?" He explained. Lorenzo and Hoax alike understanding that statement. "That's interesting. I'm sure we're gonna get along well then. What do you think?" Lorenzo was optimistic, waiting for Shadow's answer. "Yeah, I think so too." He finally answered. Mr. Hoax was happy that everybody was getting along so quickly. It had only been a small amount of time after all. Lorenzo felt anxious but optimistic. He finally had other people to interact with. He felt confident their situation would turn out positive in the end. "Thanks for coming along, guys," Lorenzo abruptly thanked them, Mr. Hoax smiling. Shadow was slightly confused, however. Where'd the gratitude come from? He laughed a little, Lorenzo smiling. "No idea. Just be happy it exists in the first place." They continued walking, growing tired. "Nighttime will come soon. Any gear for sleeping?" Shadow tilted his head, not minding if they didn't in the end. Surely enough, they didn't. "We have nothing. Sorry about that." Lorenzo awkwardly tried to move the conversation forward until Shadow pulled out 3 tents and more. "Here we go. Let's set up." He began. Mr. Hoax and Lorenzo were in awe. "How'd you manage to do that?" They both showed extreme curiosity. Shadow shrugged. "I brought them. Sorry you didn't notice." He cleared his throat, gesturing his hand toward the now 3 finished tents. The 2 were even more surprised, silent. "Thank you so much." Mr. Hoax broke the silence he himself had partially caused, jumping inside his designated tent and resting. "It's still the afternoon." Lorenzo gave his friend a reality check. Hoax didn't care, falling asleep. The 2 still awake members of the group set up a fire, sitting out together. "You seem really prepared." Lorenzo looked at Shadow. "You noticed?" He laughed jokingly. "Like a little too prepared. Are you sure you aren't hiding something? I'm not mad or anything, just curious really." Lorenzo tried to explain his recent statement. Shadow sighed. "I'm not entirely sure. I just feel odd. Let's change the topic." He seemed uncomfortable, which Lorenzo caught on to. He understood. "It's a nice night. I'm glad I can share these moments with you too." Lorenzo tried changing the topic. "I mean, not entirely true. This specific night is just us. Hoax sure is lazy." Shadow sighed. Unfortunately for him, Lorenzo had more questions. "Hey, I haven't mentioned this, but why don't you have a mouth?" Lorenzo glared at Shadow. "I was just born like that. I'm surprised you haven't asked about my skin yet." He scratched his head. Lorenzo shrugged. "Well, I'm not gonna get cancelled for discrimination. Also, why did you seem to know our names before we ever mentioned them?" Wait. He realized Shadow went into his tent to sleep. This was extremely suspicious, but Lorenzo tried to rationalize it, going to sleep himself. As he rolled around in his tent, he had a boatload of thoughts as per usual. Why was Shadow behaving like this? What would the treasure contain? Would their adventure go smoothly? Would everybody leave him? All of these questions swelled up in his mind, only met with an attempt of ignorance. Lorenzo slept before he overthought too much. The night was surprisingly peaceful, the fire eventually smouldering out. After a while, the morning had come. Hoax was the first one up, as he was the first one to rest. "This is really nice. Time to wait for everybody else to wake up." Hoax yawned, sitting on one of the 3 logs around the now-out campfire. Eventually, after waiting for a while, Shadow exited his tent. Hoax and Shadow both got along fine as they waited for Lorenzo. "Did you 2 stay up long?" Hoax began a conversation to pass the rather boring time. "Yeah, not for too long, but it was well into the night." Shadow responded, seeming somewhat reserved when in comparison to his mood the day prior. He yawned. "Hopefully he's out soon. I want to get a move on already." Shadow got up, walking back and forth to warm up. Hoax watched, thinking about his life again. He wondered if his family missed him, or if they were trying to maintain their composure. In the end, they seemed shocked once Hoax brought up leaving for a while. He had snapped out of his thoughts when Shadow said something. "Lorenzo's up," he exclaimed with an odd sense of energy, pointing to the recently awake Lorenzo. "How early is it?" he yawns, looking up into the sky. "Oh, that isn't too bad. So, how is everything?" Lorenzo asked, already cueing into the conversation. "Normal. When are we continuing our move?" Hoax asked, curious. He mostly just wanted to answer for Shadow, however. Lorenzo shrugged. "Now, I guess, whenever you guys wanna," he answered, his 2 friends immediately giving a thumbs up. Lorenzo stretched. "Let's pack up the..." He stopped as he turned around, realizing everything was packed up in an instant. "Well then, let's get going." Another seed of uncertainty spiked up inside of Lorenzo's stomach, quietly beginning to leave. The other 2 followed, becoming quiet alongside Lorenzo. The 3 of them walked, Hoax and Lorenzo realizing how far away they were from home after only a few hours. As they continued walking, Hoax became slightly homesick. "I hope we're back home soon after we find this thing. After all, walking back with the possible loot will be a pain," he commented, bringing his hand up towards his chest out of caution. The mountains grew steep. Luckily for the group, a path was created for travelers. We're so high up, what the hell? Lorenzo was in awe, looking below them a multitude of times. You probably shouldn't look down, that'd scare you, Shadow jokingly commented. Lorenzo defended himself, obviously playing along. I'm almost never scared, trust me. He laughed too, all three of them maintaining their walking speed. Hoax did show genuine fear of the height they were at. I hope we make it to some calm terrain soon. He sighed. It's legitimately snowing now. Hoax began to shiver as he said that, being met with Lorenzo's comfort. It's fine, we'll be okay. He was cut off as he heard a massive crashing sound.